Watching war films with my dad, written and read by me, Al Murray. That's right, the actual author. Introduction, in which I try to clear a few things up before we get started. 1. Trust me, I'm not an expert. Better to know nothing than half know many things. Friedrich Nietzsche. If you're familiar with the character I play, the pub landlord, and the chances are you might be, and that's why we're here together now, you might know he's extremely fond of going off on historical riffs. There's a routine in which he boldly proves that Great Britain, World War champions of the world, have beaten every single country in the world at war. Go on, name a country! He then takes requests for countries and dives into a load of half-remembered baloney, relying on a system loosely based on conkers. If we've beaten this country, who've beaten that country, then that counts as a win to us. And he can do it. We've beaten everyone, though if someone shouts out Holland, I'm in a bit of a pickle. It is, like so much of the history that gets wheeled out to prove a point, partial, thin, and laboured. But unlike lots of history wheeled out to prove a point, it is at least funny. You can prove anything with half-remembered stuff, as this book seeks to demonstrate. Now, Nietzsche was a smart man, a cripplingly self-consciously clever, wise man, a man who stared out of the window and thought about loads of stuff, an awful lot, a prolific writer, a man who declared God dead because the idea just wasn't good enough. Wow. Opinions are nevertheless divided on Nietzsche, as well they might be, what with the Nazis being so keen on him, albeit posthumously, though it was largely down to his sister sucking up to them because they were powerful. Nevertheless, he was so very clever that he's someone we ought to pay attention to, and he's a mine of quotes. This one is his clever spin on something you've surely heard a lot. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. But, on this quote, I can't agree, and if you stick with this book, maybe you'll disagree with Friedrich too. This book contains a great deal of half-known stuff. No matter what you might learn from this book, you're not learning it from a historian, merely someone who likes history, is interested in it, and can half-remember a fair bit of it. With the internet helping to jog my memory, apart from that day when they switched Wikipedia off in protest, and the creative industries in the UK ground to a halt, and everyone else got loads done, I've been able to flesh out a great deal of what I half know. The alternative, knowing nothing, no matter how much Nietzsche might like that idea, wouldn't make for much of a book, and would be a lot less interesting. And, let's be honest, most of us half know many things. I'll bet you can drive but have no idea how the sodding car actually works, but that doesn't stop you getting in the car, does it? Real historians or proper specialist fans will be tearing their hair out reading this book. That's fine, to be honest. A sale's a sale. But I'm a consumer of history, not a historian. Calling me a historian would be like calling someone who likes fish and chips a trawlerman. 2. Hindsight, an arsehole's view of events. Hindsight is always 20/20. Billy Wilder. This book is to some extent a memoir. However, what you won't get is poor me. We only had a black and white telly. I had to turn the laughter of the bullies against them, and that's why in the end I became a sad clown dancing for joy at the laughter of strangers. Sorry. One reason for this is I'm not from the north. The other is there's lots of things I don't want you to know, mainly because it's not at all interesting, not even interesting enough for me to recall. This is a memoir about fascination and hindsight. Fascination I'm all for, really. It's good to be interested in stuff, don't you think? But hindsight, with which we write memoirs as well as history, is dangerous stuff. Hindsight is, to my mind, an arsehole's view of events, both figuratively and literally. In writing this book and remembering stuff, I've used hindsight to make unconnected things connect, events cohere, and as a result, attain significance. Writing a thing like this, you cast yourself as the hero, or clown of the hour. Why wouldn't you? There's every chance I've given myself some of the best lines. It's my book, get over it. That's fair enough, I think, when you're writing a frivolous book like this. But in writing history, it's like napalm spewed liberally all over the truth of what really happened. If you'll accept my hyperbole. It's going to be that kind of read, I'm afraid. There's a thing called the historian's fallacy. Basically, it says that when studying history, we need to remember one simple and blindingly obvious thing. People in the past could not see into the future. The information that we have today to weigh up what happened back then, and importantly, and very interestingly, what might have happened, simply wasn't available to the protagonists at the time. Of course it wasn't. And even if it had been, who says they'd have not made the same decisions? In other words, just because we won the Second World War doesn't mean we were always going to. As a fan and consumer of history, and military history in particular, it seems to me from what I've read that an astonishing amount of military historians, naming no names...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?